This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me is the returning Mark Souza. Welcome back, buddy.
How's it going?
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. I ate too much food, for sure, but it was a great weekend.
The best part about it is leftovers, hands down.
Oh, yeah, my aunt actually gave us like a care package, and I'm pretty sure she gave us like 6 pounds of food, so
Nice.
We're set for the week.
Well, we have a lot to talk about in this weekend in sports, that's for sure, especially in football. We got a bunch of all Week 12 matchups, a lot of interesting games and interesting plays that happened, as well as Hugh Jackson versus Bengals. We'll get on that later, or Browns, excuse me. We'll get on that later. And then we also have the college football to talk about, especially Ohio State and Michigan and how that's affected the college football playoff, and some NBA games and anything else we want to write about in the last segment. We'll get right on that. So we'll start off with NFL, Week 12. Packers-Vikings was the game of the week. Vikings take this one 24-17 and really kind of put the Packers out of playoff contention for good. I think that really put the nail in their coffin. Aaron Rodgers played good, I guess you can say. Less than 200 yards, 198 and touchdown. Not a Aaron Rodgers-like game, but
I thought he played really good.
Yeah,
I know the numbers won't reflect it, but I thought he played really good.
That's what I meant. He played good, but when you look at the stats, it looks like, that's not what you expect from him. But he did all he could with the team he has. Let's get real.
Yeah, I think the Packers are a very limited football team, and play calling, and I think his personnel haven't been nearly as good as it has in the past, and his numbers are reflected. But I thought you know what's funny is that his numbers are actually pretty good. He has 21 touchdown passes and 1 pick on the season.
Yeah, isn't that that's what I was saying on Friday?
It's almost
really
like MVP
impressive
numbers in some years, you know?
Yeah, but the way he's been playing and the way the team has been playing around him, it's like he's struggling. But in reality, he's not.
He has 47 plays this year where he's thrown the football away on either pass protection breakdowns right away, early on in the play, or receivers running the wrong route, and he rolls out and throws it away 47 times. In comparison, Drew Brees has 80 incompletions on the season, the entire season.
That's Drew Brees is something else. Let's get real. Him and Patrick Mahomes are probably fighting each other out for MVP, and honestly, Brees has his own. I think Brees has it, in my opinion, compared to Mahomes, but I understand the Mahomes argument.
Brees
but anyways,
keeps making a stronger case as the weeks go on.
Absolutely. And for Kirk Cousins, he had a pretty darn good game himself, stats-wise, all things considered. He went 29 to 38, 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaged 9 yards a pass. So, and what from his running game, from his running backs, he wasn't getting much from them. So he basically did all he could to really put that team into the victory column.
Yeah, and you know what? They need to give the ball to Dalvin Cook more. I know they don't want him to overextend. They don't want him to get hurt because he's missed a lot of time in his young career.
He has had nagging injuries this whole season. I think they're thinking about if we make the playoffs, we want to utilize him, and if we're using him too much in the regular season, he might not be available for the postseason.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what
he is definitely something else. I mean, he's like a Kareem Hunt type player where he can kill you in the running game and in the passing game. The Vikings' offensive line's kind of not the best, you could say, to be kind, but getting him in space, we saw in his touchdown. And how good is Stephon Diggs? Honestly, this guy.
He's gotten so much better.
I mean, I know he's like in the
only
shadow of Adam Thielen, and Adam Thielen's a good player, but Stephon Diggs is one of the most athletic, dynamic players that we have in this league. And that guy, he is tough to cover.
Did it feel like he came out of nowhere?
Yeah, just like Thielen, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't believe Diggs was a first-round pick. He was not a first-round pick. And usually it's just like, he was a late-round draft. Thielen was undrafted. And both these guys are probably one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. He was a fifth-round pick. Stephon Diggs, fifth-round pick.
Round.
Thielen, undrafted. And then you got a guy like Laquan Treadwell who sits behind them, who was a first-round pick in their shadow.
And Treadwell had 1 reception for 6 yards.
Yeah, he's really a non-factor.
Yeah, and Thielen, 8 receptions, 125 yards, and Diggs, 8 receptions, 77 yards.
And he was missed, too.
In both touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah, Diggs had another 1 or 2 big plays where Cousins just missed him. So that offense, when it's clicking, is pretty darn good, but sometimes it does look a little discombobulated.
Ooh, big word. I like that. But you're right. This team is
like talent-wise, they have it right. They got a good tight end. They got 2 really good receivers.
I don't want to say inconsistent, but they play to a lower level they should be.
They do weird things. So, like last night, I'm watching the game. Why does it take you until the 3rd series to get Dalvin Cook the ball? Like, it took you the 3rd series of the football game to give your best running back the football in any regard, a handoff, a pass. And I get it. They don't want to overextend him, but you got to give him the ball. You can't just ignore him for 2 series in a row,
I honestly don't know what to say about that either, just because, like, I think they really want to use, like, Kirk Cousins to everything they paid him for type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like they paid him so much money.
They can still throw Cook the ball. I mean, they did on that touchdown,
I know, and they did that one play, but yeah, he feels very underutilized in this offense, that's for sure.
Plus, a lot of times, too, when I watch the Vikings offense, I feel like their play calls are very forced sometimes. Like, they're trying to force the ball down the field, where a lot of times a dump off to a guy like Cook can really open up the offense. We see the Patriots do it with Brady and James White. We see the Rams do it with Gurley. We see the Chiefs do it with Kareem Hunt. You don't have to drop back and throw it 30 yards down the field every single time. Just the short completions. Let your guys get in space and make some plays. But Packers, I'm pretty sure they're done. I don't think anybody would say they're not.
Well, they're 4-6-1 at the moment, and they've lost 2 straight. And the leading in the NFC North is the Bears at 8-3, who have won 5 straight. So yeah, I say that's a long shot.
Yeah,
they're not technically eliminated from the playoffs yet, as far as I'm aware.
Act of God, I think.
Yeah, they need one of those Bills last year miracles where every team they need to loses in like 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm. So for me, the Mike McCarthy watch is full on.
I think he's done at the end of the season.
We will see. See. But the Vikings put themselves in a good position to make the playoffs, as now they're creeping closer and closer to a wild card berth. Obviously, in the NFC, there are other teams, and we'll get into them. But you want to talk about two of those wild card teams, the Seahawks and the Panthers?
Sure, we can do that. Seahawks win this one, 30-27. The Seahawks are really silently like becoming a playoff team. Isn't it? Like they're under the radar.
I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. They just are looking like they are heading that way.
I have heard you that. I've heard you, and trust me, we all have heard you. But like, like when you're looking at like national television, they're not really looked at. You know what I mean? They're kind of
they've been flying under the radar.
Isn't that weird? Because not too long ago, this team was
the Seahawks flying.
Stop it! No. But isn't it weird? Like we look at this team maybe 2 years ago. This was the top of the NFL. And now they're under the radar.
I think it says something to how good they are, how coached they are, how well coached they are. Pete Carroll and that team. This is a completely different Seahawks team than the one that won the Super Bowl. Completely different.
Multiple players with over 100 receiving yards. Lockett and Moore both had over 100 yards receiving, both with a touchdown. Russell Wilson had 339 yards on 22 completions for 2 touchdowns. And then you look at Cam Newton. He didn't have that great of a game, all things considered. Like, he had 2 touchdowns, true, and 25 of 30. But
it's all about McCaffrey yesterday for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when you look at Cam Newton and his stats, 25 of 30, 256 and 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, that sounds like a pretty darn good game. But that 1 pick turned out costly.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of a tale of two halves for them.
Absolutely.
I mean, they looked, and I don't know if this is a thing for Carolina, but sometimes I feel like that they come out strong, and then they kind of lose a little bit of steam as the games go on.
100%.
I don't want this to be necessarily a criticism of Cam Newton, but I kind of feel like it is him because he's not the most accurate passer. So when teams decide, okay, we're going to make you beat us down the field, we're going to make you stay in the pocket, that's where I think he kind of struggles.
And that 1 pick was a downfield play that really didn't need to be thrown.
Yep.
He kind of overthought that one. And then when you look at McCaffrey, 17 attempts, 125 yards rushing and a touchdown, and then 11 receptions with 11 targets. So he caught every single pass that was thrown to him, and 112 yards and a touchdown there. Mm-hmm. How often do you see a stat line like that? Like,
not often. That was his
unreal.
big game for sure. I mean, we all know that he's the focal point, but yesterday he was not only
coming
getting
out
the ball.
story.
Well, I mean, we all know that he's really good, but I mean,
Well, it's like he arrived.
the efficiency yesterday was insane. 7 yards a carry.
The thing is, McCaffrey's had some games where he's almost non-existent.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, they try to give him the ball, but the volume's always there. But yesterday, the efficiency was there.
Yeah, but it showed like how in Stanford he was unreal and a Heisman candidate, and now him in Carolina really shows that he is all that and maybe more.
Yeah, and all of a sudden the Panthers are 6-5. So is Seattle. So is Washington.
A pretty
so
quiet
is Dallas.
6-5.
Minnesota is 6-4-1. Philadelphia is right behind at 5-6. Carolina went from being in the driver's seat to the wild card to now struggling and hoping to get in.
Well, I don't think it's them personally their fault. I think just other teams are just bouncing really well, like bouncing back from losses really well.
Well, Carolina's on a 3-game losing streak, so yeah, I mean, they were 6-2, now they're 6-5.
Yeah, I know it's a 3-game losing streak, but I'm just saying that there's other teams that are just hot right now. Yeah, they're losing, but I think it's just momentum for other teams.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I can see them even not making the playoffs.
Yeah, at this point,
yeah.
You never know. I mean, I think they still have to play the Saints twice.
I thought they played the Saints already once. Have they not?
Let me see. Saints,
I'll look.
Nope, they do. They play the Saints twice, and they play the Steelers. They end their season Saints, Steelers, Saints. So I don't think they're making the
That's
playoffs.
rough. That's just not fair. But yeah, you're right. But we're also looking at other games such as let's go Dolphins and Colts.
Yeah, let's do it.
Colts have been looking extremely well.
They are hot right now. Andrew Luck, he could be MVP in a different season.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this team, how last year they looked so bad.
Can you say 5-game winning streak?
They're
6-5. They were 1-5.
I can't say it.
Well, if your name was Andrew Luck, you'd be able to say it because you have been doing it.
He had nearly, minus his 2 picks, he had nearly a perfect game.
Did you see his 2 picks? They were back to back, like at the end of the first half. He throws a pick, then they get the ball back, then he throws a pick.
Well, it was at the end of the first half, so he's kind of forcing it, trying to make something happen. Mm-hmm. So it was the second one was really unnecessary. Was really like he didn't need to throw that.
Right.
The first one, you can see
First one's
it.
kind of a jump ball, yeah.
Yeah, but the second one was like, okay, now you're just trying to make something happen out of nothing.
Yeah.
You're trying to make a miracle happen. But
that was a big loss for the Dolphins, though. They're now 5-6. It was one of those rubber matches.
I didn't see them making the playoffs at the beginning, and now I still don't.
Yeah, I think we both.
They make it every 4 years. It feels like
every year they have between 7 and 9 wins every single year. I'm pretty sure
it's pretty disappointing for them, to be honest. But Andrew Luck minus those 2 picks, which were like we said, kind of unnecessary. 30 of 37, 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's nearly a perfect game.
Mm-hmm. And what is really awesome to see for the Colts is yesterday Andrew Luck was sacked for the first time in, I believe, 3 or 4 games.
Isn't that unbelievable how, beginning,
that offensive line has been...
how bad that offensive line was last year, though. Everyone was like, okay, he's going to get decapitated by week 4 this season.
That's why I really loved the Quentin Nelson pick in the first round, the guard from Notre Dame. I know some people are like, oh, why would you take a guard that high? Well,
he was that
because he's a beast, and you need to protect your franchise.
And his other counterweight, McGlinchey from Notre Dame, with the 49ers, has playing extremely well himself.
Yeah, both
really
those
shows
guys.
why Notre Dame was so high ranked back last year as well as this year.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it just looks like the Dolphins are really struggling. It just doesn't seem like they have a way about them. They don't know what to do. They don't have an identity.
And that, I think, has to do somewhat with their turmoil at quarterback. Tannehill, his first game back from injury yesterday. They were with Osweiler.
I mean, he did okay.
Yeah.
He had a couple touchdowns but 204 yards, I'm sorry, that's just not a lot. I think you got to do more if you're going to have a job.
Yesterday, when the game was tied in the fourth quarter 2 times on 3rd and 10, Adam Gase chose to run the football.
Yeah.
And you can't play that conservatively and win football games. You just can't. You can't have a tie game late in the fourth quarter and it be 3rd and long. I get if it was 3rd and 20 or 3rd and 25. You just want to get some yards and then punt. But 3rd and 10, it's Ryan Tannehill. He's not a rookie quarterback. You should be able to trust your team in that regard.
Yeah, but he sometimes plays like a rookie, doesn't he? It just always feels like he's been in that rookie feel.
For me, though, it's like if you can't trust him, then call the play. And if he keeps failing you over and over again, then you need to move on in free agency. Like, you just need, you know what I mean? Like, don't hide him, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then on the other side, do you like how Andrew also had a reception yesterday?
I saw that. It was a 4th down play, I believe. They split him out wide and they threw him the ball. I thought he got hurt, actually. He took a pretty good hit.
Yeah, but he's a tough guy. Have you ever seen his mic'd up things where he gets hit? He goes, nice hit. And he hits the lineman on the helmet like, good job.
Yeah, he's way too nice. Like you want to say something mean to him, but you just can't.
He's just not a hateable guy, I have to say. And then Eric Ebron. 2 games ago, he had that huge breakout game. And then I pick him up in our fantasy football podcast and think he's gonna have another good game.
Puts up a bagel,
and then he goes 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Come on, man.
Man,
fantasy players are frustrated, but
the frustrations of fantasy football.
He only had 11 touchdowns in his full tenure with
Detroit,
and this season alone he has 11 touchdowns.
And it's funny too because the Colts, I feel like they use 5 different tight ends who score.
Yeah,
Doyle.
He actually had more snaps than Ebron had more snaps than Doyle.
Doyle, they have that.
And Doyle's supposed to be the one, and Ebron had more snaps than he did.
Eric Swope, and then Ali Dix is the other one. They use a bunch of tight ends, but
I do have to say, if the Colts want to stay in a playoff contention spot, they cannot have games with 3 turnovers. They had 3 turnovers this game, and they came out with a last-second field goal by Adam Vinatieri. And that just you can't just rely on that after a 3 turnover performance.
The Colts now find themselves in 7th, I believe. Actually, no, they would be the last. No, they would be on the outside looking in. They would be right now if the playoffs started today. They would not make the playoffs, but they're in very good position. Do you think that Frank Wright would want that tie back, the one that he said that he didn't want early in week 4?
Yeah, that would probably put them in the playoffs.
It would
6-4-1.
It would. I mean, there's still more football to play, but it does make a difference when you look at the standings right now. I mean, that tie would be a big help.
Well, but besides the Chargers, who are 8-3, who are basically inclined for a playoff spot,
yeah, it's pretty much Pittsburgh or Baltimore
for the second wild card spot. 6-5, or actually, there's 2. No, because the Steelers have the 7-3-1. They have the
advantage. They
have the division.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're looking at wild card, besides the Chargers, who are 8-3, so I don't think anyone's catching up to them. Ravens 6-5, Colts 6-5, Titans 5-5. They have a game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Dolphins 5-6, Bengals 5-6, Broncos 5-6. Browns still have a chance at 4-6-1 to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
they're not that far behind. They've won 2 in a row.
It would take some
By the way,
breaks.
the Browns won 2 in a row.
It's the Hugh effect. Why don't we talk about Hugh and that when we come back from break?
Oh, yeah, we can absolutely do that. I'm going to have fun with this one. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We're finishing up our Week 12 talk. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns dismantled the Cincinnati Bengals 35-20.
Shake and bake.
And Hugh Jackson is just, how unlucky can one man be?
Why do you say that? Some would say that he's extremely lucky.
Who says this?
Well, let's see. It took him 87 years to get fired from the Browns, which is lucky. I think he should have been fired a long time ago.
I'm not just based off wins, because whatever team he goes to, it feels like they're just destined to lose.
Yeah, but did you hear the report yesterday that if Marvin Lewis is fired, that Hugh Jackson could be the one that gets the job for the Bengals? So we're talking about, you say unlucky, I say, I don't know, Jeff. He might be the luckiest guy in the world.
Lucky when it comes to jobs, unlucky when it comes to getting wins. That's what I was trying to point out. Because every team he goes to has a tendency to lose.
Hey, isn't he the special assistant to the defensive coordinator right now or something?
Special assistant regional manager of Dunder Mifflin Scranton, yes.
But he's actually, his title is actually like he's helping the defense, right?
Yeah, which doesn't make sense.
And the defense who got shredded by the Browns yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's helping. His presence.
There was a little meme on Instagram that were saying like, "Oh look, Hugh Jackson's actually helping the Browns win again."
See, it only took him 3.5 years in another team, you know?
Did you see the handshake between him and Baker Mayfield at the end of the game?
Was there a handshake?
It was cringeworthy. He was trying to do that little handshake then hug, and Mayfield was having none of it.
I saw him say Baker, like in his ear, and Baker was like turned the other way, and then he was like trying. He did that thing where you try to ignore somebody like at a party or something, where like you're like, oh God, I hope Jeff doesn't approach me tonight at the party, and then oh God, like. Oh, you're talking to me. Oh, well, now it's so obvious that I have to turn around.
You just smile and nod like, yeah.
You're like, oh, me? Oh, you're talking to me. Oh,
well, like he grabbed his shoulder like he was going for a hug, and Mayfield was just like, no, you're not, no way. And
Baker's like, you try to ruin my career.
Well, Baker at the end of the interview after the game was like, you go to the team we play twice a year after you get fired from us. Like that's just he doesn't think that's right in his opinion.
This game was bad too. 35-20 doesn't even do it justice. This was maybe the biggest blowout of the day. I mean, other than the Chargers,
it was 21-0 at one point, I believe.
Yeah, and then I mean they're getting blown out. I know that
it was 28-7 going into halftime.
The Bengals scored. Yeah, it was 35-7.
35-7. Sorry,
but I mean at halftime you're right. It was 28-7, but 35-7, and then Dalton gets hurt, you're like, okay, this game's over. So they scored 2 touchdowns to make it look somewhat respectable, but this was a big old blowout.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns for Mayfield, no picks.
He's looking good.
A 143.9 passer rating, so nearly perfect. And you want to see the stats line of this game, like the time of possession. 32 minutes, 4 seconds for Cleveland to 27:56 for Cincinnati. So they had the ball roughly around the same time. Total yards, 330 to the Cleveland to 384 for Cincinnati. So they had relatively a close resemblance of offense. Just one was scoring than the other.
And you know what? When you look at the Browns, what I like about the Browns is that when you look at this team, yes, they had a tough start to the season, but they're not a bad football team.
No,
and they have a lot of good young players.
They have a lot of talent.
Chubb, they found their franchise running back. They found their franchise quarterback in the same year of the rebuild. And then now you have a guy like Landry who did not have a big game yesterday, but you know that he's a good player. You have other young receivers. You have Njoku at tight end who, again, scored yesterday. He is a athletic freak. You can see this Browns team turning the corner next year. I really think you can.
I do also. But basically what the Cleveland Browns is, they had a chance to make the playoffs this year, in my opinion, if Hugh Jackson was not their head coach.
They blew too many of those early games.
Yeah. But I think you got to put a lot of that on Hugh Jackson, do you not?
Oh, yeah, and you look at the Bengals, is Marvin Lewis going to stick around at the end of the year? There's a report that Hugh Jackson might be the next guy to take over from Marvin Lewis.
I believe his extension last year was to a 2-year extension, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's up to him if he wants to stay or not. I don't think they're going to
They gave him an extension that they could fire him if they want to.
The thing is with Cincinnati's management, they do not like to move on. They like to hold. They don't like to spend a lot of money.
They don't. That is an understatement.
And I think that if Paul Brown was still alive, he would hate that. Mm-hmm. But his son is kind of struggling, all things considered. So
yeah, they're in a bad spot. But what game would you like to move on to? Patriots-Jets?
Sure, we can do Patriots-Jets. Patriots win this one 27-13. They were actually tied at one point 10-10, and then it got out of hand. It's kind of like the Citadel-Alabama game that happened a couple weeks ago. Tied 10-10. Everyone's like, whoa, well, this game's tied, and then it got out of hand.
Yeah, the Jets played hard, but you know what you're going to get with the Jets. Yeah. They don't have the talent to do it for 48 minutes. I mean, they just don't.
But we do need to talk about how Tom Brady is now the all-time passing yards leader, including adding the playoffs to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What other awards or what other records will he break at this point? You know,
the most yards passing with his eyes closed. I don't know.
He already has the most wins in Buffalo of all quarterbacks, including Buffalo Bills quarterbacks, which is funny.
When you say greatest quarterback of all time, yeah, you gotta put him at least in your second.
He's on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if he's not, then you're in denial.
He might be upset, though, today, knowing that his Wolverines got hammered on Saturday.
Well, we'll talk about that later. We will get on that in a little bit. We will talk about that, guaranteed. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at another player on that Patriots team, Sony Michel had the game of his career. 133 yards and a touchdown on 21 rushing attempts. Wow, that's a great game for a rookie.
And the Patriots move into number 2. They're in the number 2 spot with that win.
Isn't that weird they moved into a number 2 spot? Shouldn't they just automatically be just a bye week, you know?
Yeah, you would think so, but the Steelers losing. Yeah, you want to talk about that game? Steelers and the Broncos? Maybe the surprise of the day?
There is one game in particular I need to talk about, and that's a 97-yard touchdown from Roethlisberger to Smith-Schuster. Roethlisberger was about to get tackled for a safety in that.
Yeah, hit pretty good.
Yeah, and then a great move by Schuster to get open, makes it in that post route, and then he just outruns the safety, and then gives him the nastiest stiff arm where he stiff arms him so hard he makes him run into the other guy and makes him trip the other defender who was guarding him, and it was a very lack of effort. It was a very poor defensive effort by the Broncos on that play.
It reminded me a lot of Jerry Rice back in the day where he would take like a 15, 20-yard pass, and then he might not be Tyreek Hill fast, but like somehow, some way they just could not corral him. And he would just run by him, run to the side of them, make them run into each other. Something would happen, but he just found a way to get in. So that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah. And basically, the Broncos are just no. I don't know how to explain this. Case Keenum.
They've been playing tough though in some of these games.
Isn't that incredible? They played like
but the Chiefs really tough. You
okay. I'm when I say no, when I say oh my goodness, it's these numbers I'm comparing to. Ben Roethlisberger, 41 of 56, 462 yards and a touchdown with 2 picks though. But Case Keenum, 15 of 28, 197 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Like that sounds like the Steelers win all over them. No?
Did you see the kicker throwing the touchdown pass?
The weirdest thing ever. Boswell? Yeah.
That was a nice play, though.
A 2-yard touchdown pass.
What's the problem with the Broncos, though? They don't give the ball to Lindsey nearly enough. The guy
he had 110 yards.
Every week he has a ton of yards.
14 attempts, 110 yards. That's still a lot. And yet he could have gotten more. But you want to hear Boswell's quarterback rating? 118.8 because of 1-for-1, 2 yards, and a touchdown. He had 10 fantasy points.
Yeah, if you had him as your kicker in fantasy, you got a touchdown pass.
That's wow.
Just like I had Andrew Luck in one of my leagues yesterday, and he got me a reception.
And Ben Roethlisberger, 460 yards is insane. And yeah, you can't get the job. You can only score 17 points.
Yeah, I don't know how they only scored that, but James Conner, he's going to be the starter for the rest of the season. He's kind of been underwhelming a little bit.
And that's not good, especially in Pittsburgh, where fans are pretty ruthless.
It's weird, though, because he had been killing it, and then the news comes out that Bell for sure will not be playing this year, and it's like, oh, he's had his 2 worst games.
All right. When you listen to these stats, who do you think won the game? Pittsburgh had 35 minutes of time possession to Denver's 25. 526 total yards for Pittsburgh to Denver's 309. 451 passing yards to Denver's 185. This is total because there were some minus ones. 25 first downs to 17 first downs, Pittsburgh over Denver. The only thing they beat them in is rushing yards, and that was 124 to 75. So not that much.
What was the turnover difference?
That's where I was gonna go with 4 turnovers to none.
There you go.
And that's
the equalizer right there.
Yeah, but if you take that out, if you just don't look at that, that's all Steelers.
Yeah, they dominated the yardage, but
like I said,
turnovers. Yeah,
those 4 turnovers were very costly in this game.
Mm-hmm. And they needed a touchdown pass by their kicker and a 97-yard touchdown pass to even almost win the game. So if they don't make those 2 plays, they could have had all those yards and less points, which would have been crazy.
That's just what's incredible to me. This team should have won handily with the stats that we read, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah, what about that Eagles-Giants game? Do you see that one?
Eagles were down, 19-0?
Mm-hmm.
Going into, and then they scored 11 points in the second quarter. Then they scored 11 points in 2 different quarters, which is weird, all things considered. You don't just score 11 points in 2 separate quarters. That's just not a number that's normal. But yes, Eagles win this one 25-22 after being down 19-0, keeping their playoff hopes barely alive. I'm going to say barely.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you play a football game where you have a guy named Saquon Barkley on your team and you're winning for almost the entire game, a lot of the game by more than 1 score, and your star running back that you took number 2 overall, who's having a heck of a game, gets the ball 13 times on the ground? And he had 7 receptions, but how do you want to give him the ball 13 times on the ground?
Minus his 51-yard run, which was unreal, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He only has 50 yards rushing.
On 12 carries, though. It's still 4 yards a carry,
But still, that's, like you said, 13 attempts is
gotta
nearly
give him the ball.
25 carries.
In a game where you're winning most of the game and you're winning by multiple scores, he should have at least 25 carries.
And this is the question I wanted to talk about. If you're Barkley, are you frustrated with your team that you're doing everything you can and you're having this fantastic season and yet your team is still playing at this below average level?
Yeah, you're frustrated, but I think you kind of knew what you were going to be with when you got drafted. You knew that you were going to a struggling team. There was a reason why they had the number 2 overall pick. So I think he's frustrated, yes, but I don't know. I don't know if he really expected anything different, to be honest.
Yeah.
At least not in year 1, but we'll
yeah,
see.
it's just a little disappointing. Is all if I have to say. If I'm Barkley, I'm
the
disappointed.
Eagles though. They did not impress me. They continue to struggle at 5-6. And this was an elimination game. If they would have lost, they would have been completely out. I mean, they probably are not going to make it, but still, they have a breathing chance because of the division.
Yeah. If they're lucky, they're in a very weak, probably the weakest
They're
division
only one
in the
game
NFL.
behind first, right?
Yeah. Whether you call them the weakest division in the NFL?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's incredible coming from the division that gave us a Super Bowl team from last year.
Yeah. All right, so we got 4 games left, actually. Which one do you want to go? You want to go to Bills, Jags?
Sure, I guess you already said it. Bills win this one 24-21 in a game where Ramsey put his foot in his mouth on this one.
Ramsey also said, "You're trash, you're trash, you're trash, you're trash," pointing to players on Buffalo on the sideline.
He especially was saying that to Josh Allen.
Josh Allen had a game.
Yeah, and
He may have shut up Ramsey a little bit
yeah,
for the time being.
But the thing is with this is Ramsey was like on Twitter. They were showing Bills were showing videos of the passes that Josh Allen was making, and Ramsey was posting, "Oh, pick waiting to happen." Mm-hmm. And what happened? Oh yeah, a whole lot of no Ramsey.
Well, Ramsey got that pick, but there was a foul away from the play, so it took it away.
I know, but that's still. But the fact of the matter is, Ramsey keeps putting his foot in his mouth.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when your quarterback is Blake Bortles. It's gonna be hard to win.
Well, maybe you should just no.
Well, you can't do that now. It is who he is, you know?
Well, his team is not making the playoffs.
Oh, no.
They have
They fired their offense coordinator today.
Yes, they did. And as of right now, they have the 6th pick in the draft. So they're not
quarterback, baby. Maybe they'll move up for Herbert.
Justin Herbert, maybe.
Maybe they'll trade up with San Francisco or Oakland and try and get in front of the Giants.
Possibly. They would have to give up a lot, though.
It's possible, though. When you look at the standings now and you say they have the 6th pick, yeah, they'd have to give up a lot, but you could see the Niners or the Raiders moving back and getting more picks and letting a team like Jacksonville take the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Could happen. And then what happens if the Giants want to jump back in front? You know, it could be a little bit of a bidding war.
True.
But yeah, the Bills win. They're 4-7. The Jaguars are 3-8. Both teams are done. All right. Do you want to take a break?
Yeah, sure. We can take a break.
We got to take a break when we come back. We still have a couple of games to get through.
And also the Monday night game. We need it just real brief. And then we'll get into the college football games, which are probably more exciting than some of these games that happen in the NFL.
Yeah, Ohio State, Michigan, obviously we need to talk about. Kind of mentioned some of the other games. Florida State, Notre Dame, some news and notes with those teams. Yeah. We'll do that. And then segment 4, we have some NBA talk.
Yes, right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are finishing up our Week 12 matchups. We're going to go by them pretty quickly, so hold on to your hats, everybody. We're going to go right then with the Chargers game, the Chargers and Cardinals. Chargers dismantled the Arizona Cardinals 45-10. Phillip Rivers, 259 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 28 of 29. Oh,
he almost broke the record.
And what was that record, just for the fans
25 consecutive completions in a row, and he tied the record, but then he could not break it.
Yeah, it was, I believe,
so close.
Yeah, yet so far away. You know who also had passes this game? Geno Smith.
Yes, he got to play.
Yet he threw 3 passes and completed none of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main story of this game is Melvin Gordon has been injured in this game.
Mm-hmm. MCL sprain, looks like he'll miss about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, which I think they're already a shoo-in for the playoffs, so probably he's probably back by then. And then but is that going to be like an issue? Do you think they're going to be on a losing streak without him? Do you think they might still not make the playoffs without him? What do you think that's going to be?
I mean, they'll make the playoffs, and I think their offense is good. I don't know if they're actually going to miss him a whole lot, but they will need him when the games matter in the playoffs. So I actually don't see too much of a drop-off between Gordon and Austin Eckler. He's a really good player in his own right, and you know how the Chargers are. They like to dish the ball around to a lot of different wide receivers and players, so I think they'll be fine.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we're going to move on because this game was just one-sided, to say the least.
Raiders-Ravens?
Raiders, right, this game.
Speaking of one-sided game.
34-17, all Ravens, all the time.
Defensive touchdown and a punt return touchdown for the Ravens really changed the game.
Derek Carr doing Derek Carr things. Lamar Jackson, his second win of his career, second win in a row. He did have 2 interceptions, though, but he did have a touchdown. Ran the ball pretty well, 71 yards and a rushing touchdown himself. And they're winning. That's all that matters.
Yep. And then down in Florida, the Niners and the Bucks.
The most boring game of the week.
Bucks get an easy win. Jameis Winston back in the win column.
They played the worst team in the NFL in the 49ers. Well, maybe not the worst team, but they're the worst record at the moment. They have the number 1 overall pick as of right now. So for 49ers fans, that was probably a blessing in disguise. They lost this game. Nick Mullins, a touchdown, 2 picks. He's kind of done. Matt Breida, though, a great season for him. 106 yards rushing this game. But he's been playing extremely well. As well as George Kittle, 6 receptions, 48 yards. Is a pretty bad game for him.
Pettis had a touchdown. But
yeah. Well, I was saying, like, Kittle had a bad game in his own right, 6 receptions, 48 yards, but that'd be a good game for any tight end. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. So the Bucks win. Both teams aren't playoff contenders and are looking at top 5 picks.
As of right now, I'll read off the top 6 picks in the draft. And based off strength of schedule, this is.
All right, go ahead.
Niners 1, Cardinals 2, Raiders 3, Jets 4, Giants 5, Jaguars 6. So Buccaneers are not in that category at the moment.
Unfortunately for them.
Yes, fortunately for the Niners, they get the first overall pick in one of the highly touted defensive classes in the draft in the recent memory, and they need defense. So, good for them.
The Bosa Bowl.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's talk about tonight's game. Texans and Titans. Texans are hosting. What do you see happening?
Texans winning.
They're favored right now.
Do I need to explain that?
No. But it's a division game. It could be a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I know. And I know the Titans are 5-5 and they're playing all right. But fact of the matter is, Houston's just on this roll, and their defense has been elite, in my opinion. What do you think? Would elite be?
I think both defenses have been very good. Both offenses are up and down. We've seen the Texans struggle on offense, which is a little surprising. We've seen the Titans struggle on offense, which is lesser surprising because they are always known to be an inconsistent type team. Do you think that we'll see another defensive struggle tonight, or do you think that the offenses might open it up a little bit?
You know, Watson always has these breakout games, and I think this might be one of them.
Yeah, Mariota, it's a good thing that he's playing. We saw him get hurt again last week, but it looks like it was just a stinger, nothing major, but we know that a couple weeks ago, he couldn't even feel the ball in his hand. He was having some numbness in his hand. I don't know what's going on with him. But the Texans are at home. They have a really good pass rush. I like them to win. What about you?
Yeah, I like them to win also.
All right. What do you think score will be?
25-17.
25-17. Yeah, I think the Texans are going to win, but I see like a really ugly type football game. Something like a 23-16, but I think we're pretty close in the same ballpark, like a lower scoring football game. The average score in the NFL is 48 points, and it looks like we both think it'll go under than that. So, all right. So let's talk about some college football.
Yeah, college football. All right, we're going to first off, we have to start with the game. Ohio State and Michigan. In would you call it a surprising turn of events? Maybe just off the score alone. Ohio State dismantled Michigan 62-39.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I am not shocked that Ohio State won, but I am shocked by the score.
Yes. Haskins upping his Heisman candidacy with 5 touchdowns and 318 yards, only on 19 completions, which is unreal. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Patterson on the other side, 187 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Like, his could have gone better for Michigan, as they were so close to a playoff spot, so close to the college football playoff, and this game surely has to put them out of it.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but don't call me Shirley.
Okay, Shirley.
Sorry, it's a stupid joke that my dad says sometimes.
It was from Airplane. I know the reference.
Is this a rivalry?
Is this a rivalry?
Well, Michigan's won 3 times in the last 18 years.
It's still called the game. Dude.
I know, but it seems like at this point it seems like it's more a rivalry in name only, right? Than an actual rivalry, because yes, we know that Michigan has dominated at stretches, but I mean, it's not just an Urban Meyer thing. Ohio State has dominated since 2000. I mean, Michigan has won 3 times, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Like sometimes when you talk about rivalry, it needs to be a competitive, like back and forth type of aspect. But I still see this as one of the best rivalries in sports because it's always like so heated. There's always something to be a part of. There's always something you're interested in. Yeah.
And, you know, Michigan dominated in the 80s and 90s. They certainly dominated this rivalry, but for Ohio State now, that is 7 in a row. They've won this game 7 years in a row. Only really 2 of them, maybe 3, have been close. I know that Jim Harbaugh has as pretty much as secure of a job as anyone. But do you think that for the first time, maybe Michigan will consider going in a different direction? Maybe not this year. But do you think this really puts the pressure on him next year? Like, if they don't win a playoff, if they don't get to the playoff and lose again to Ohio State next year, let's just say that happens. Could he be done? Could the unthinkable happen?
Was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, wow, if this continues, if his disappointment continues and he cannot win the quote-unquote big one, then his coaching career might be in doubt.
I mean,
because
he's not winning conferences. He's not winning anything of note, you know.
I mean, you can even go back to his NFL days. Like he didn't get that big win. He didn't get close. That. He got just like in Michigan. He got this close, and yet couldn't seal the deal.
This one's a bad one.
And in Stanford, he's gotten very close and couldn't seal the deal. This one was like there was a mind block of how to win this game, wasn't there?
And I mean, you know, he has his guys now. It's one thing when you come in for the first year or two and you're playing with somebody else's players, you know, but these are his guys now. Like, these are his players. So I'm just trying to think, Jeff, in any sport, especially college football, usually coaches don't last when they can't beat their rival for a given amount of time, you know? Like,
yes.
They don't last. And Harbaugh may be a glamorous name. He might be somebody who you don't think of like that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
The thing is with him, if he does lose his job with Michigan, he will find a job the same day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he will be in demand.
He will never not have a job. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And is that interesting that he has never actually won the big one, but yet is always on high demand?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, could you imagine if the Cleveland Browns came calling?
I mean, they would need help more than anybody, but I don't think he would. Would he take it? Just depends on the money.
I don't know if he would take it, but is there a better situation for him? You know, he gets to go to a young team, kind of like how when he went to the 49ers. When he went to the 49ers, he knew that there was talent there. They couldn't win games, but they had the pieces in play for a coach to come in and kind of guide them. Well, the Browns, you could say, they have the same situation, right?
True. Very, very factual.
And you could actually argue that the Brown situation looks better than what the Niners situation looked at when Harbaugh went there, because Baker Mayfield looks like a stud. At least when he came in with the 49ers, Alex Smith was like a mediocre guy that was having a up and down career, and they needed someone.
Where was the up in his career at that time?
Down in his career. Yeah, exactly. So Mayfield's showing more upside, right? So
absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, Notre Dame won.
Yes.
Clemson won. Alabama won.
Well, the Clemson one wasn't a surprise, and
Notre
Alabama,
Dame's game was close, but they won in the end.
It was close at one point, and yes. So the other three teams that are in playoff hopes won their games. Of course,
Georgia won as well.
Yes, they did, which Georgia probably will enter, but they have to face Alabama in the championship game.
Right.
Which might put them out of the playoffs.
So does Ohio State get in with a win? Remember, we have to mention this. LSU and the Texas A&M 7 overtimes. Did you catch that game?
It was unbelievable.
It was unreal.
7 overtimes.
But LSU lost.
Yes.
They were the 7th seed.
They're done.
So Ohio State has to be like 7 now, maybe 7 or 8.
But I don't see them going in the top 4. I mean,
Georgia will be in the top 4, but Georgia has to play Alabama, so we're assuming one of them will be out, right?
True, very true.
I mean, you got Ohio State is going to jump Central Florida. They're going to jump LSU. For sure.
Central Florida did lose. Did you see the Central Florida quarterback?
Yeah.
And how he got injured?
He's out.
That was
Ohio State's going to jump
gruesome.
to at least 7, in my opinion. And then Georgia. Yeah, Georgia. I don't know, man. This college football, it's getting right down to it. And Washington State lost, Jeff. They're going to jump. They're going to go all the way to 7, at least. And then really... No, they're going to go to 6. And then there's only one team in their way. That's crazy. LSU game, though. So you watched the end?
Yeah.
Because I turned it on. It was in the 4th overtime. I was like, hey, I got to see this.
4th overtime. They played a lot. They played 11, basically, quarters. All
Did you see
things
the fight?
considered. That was just that was just frustrations for
Kevin Falk, former Patriot and LSU running back. He fights a staffer from Texas A&M.
That was unnecessary.
That game had
You
to
expect
end with
you
a
expect the
punch.
players to fight, but when the staff fights, then there's some immaturity there.
Florida State has a losing season for the first time in, I believe, 15,000 days.
15,000 days.
They had the longest streak in college football.
Is that
by
how long the
far.
game went on for? 15,000 days?
Florida State, though, that team hasn't had a losing record than I believe in about 50 years. So,
yeah. But going back to the fight, like Kevin Falk, do you see him keeping his job after this?
I have no idea. I'm interested to see what the fallout is of this. But imagine losing your job by punching a staffer from the opposing team.
An LSU spokesperson alleged that the man involved in the brawl with Falk punched LSU Special Assistant Steve I'm going to try to say it the best I can. Kragathrop. I'm really sorry that I butchered that, but he was he was at one time the offensive coordinator for the LSU Tigers, and he has Parkinson's.
Wow.
This is all alleged too.
Wow.
And so might have been one of the reasons that sparked that fight, but I don't know where this will lead. I don't know where this will go, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think we need to take a break.
We will take a break.
Overdue.
We'll go really brief with the NBA, and that'll be our day.
Yeah, we'll do NBA talk when we come back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome to the last segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast. We're going to talk about the NBA now. We talked about all football, now NBA talk. And in the NBA, the Warriors ended their losing streak.
Mm-hmm. They did.
They beat the Sacramento Kings 117-116, so barely.
By the skin of their teeth.
By the skin of their teeth. And 44-13 game for Kevin Durant, 44 points, 13 rebounds. Klay Thompson had 31 points himself. Do you think when Stephen Curry returns, things will just be back to normal?
I do. I definitely do. And especially when Draymond comes back. When they get Draymond and Steph back, I think we'll just be talking about this old drama like it never happened.
There is another game on Saturday I wanted to talk about. Cleveland beat Houston 117-108.
Cavs are back, huh?
I was about to say, is it alarmed? Is it setting off the alarms in Houston?
Probably not. They've been playing better. A blip in the radar, you know?
Okay. And then the 76ers game yesterday.
Two game winners in the last week.
Yes, Jimmy Butler put in the dagger in the hearts of Brooklyn Nets and takes the victory. Jimmy Butler had 34 points, 12 rebounds. Embiid had 32 points, 12 rebounds himself. And basically both of them carried their weight as they beat Brooklyn in this game at the last possible second.
Jimmy Butler is showing why they went out and they acquired a guy like him, somebody that they need when it really counts, and maybe a player to push him over the edge, which Butler has done twice this week.
Yes.
What about the Clippers? We need to talk about the Clippers because they are right now your Western Conference leader. The Clippers, not the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Clippers. How crazy.
What world are we living in right now?
Who would have predicted that, honestly? They were a lottery team. They had 2 picks
They
in
are
the lottery.
13-6 as of right now.
Yeah, and they beat Portland. They beat the Grizzlies. Like, their last couple wins are really good, too. They're not just beating up on the weak teams.
There's a lot of surprising teams with double-digit wins this season, to be completely honest with you.
And the Clippers this week play the Suns and the Kings, so they could extend that winning streak.
Suns could be a win because they're 4-15. The Kings are a surprising 10-10, so that might be a little harder than most people would think.
Yeah.
But again, what are you gonna do? But
Clippers have been surprising though. The Lakers have had their ups and downs, but not the Clippers. They've just been cruising so far.
Clippers are the third best team in the league, win-loss wise, and the first and second are no surprising Toronto and Milwaukee. So, do you see the East maybe becoming better than what we thought they were becoming? Or was it just these two teams are just at another level compared to everybody else?
The East has a few really good teams, but then once it gets past Indiana in my book, I feel like there's a huge drop off. Even Detroit at 10-7, I don't think Detroit really is. I don't think Detroit would be a playoff team in the West. So that's where I think the cutoff is. Like every team down past Philadelphia right now, except for Boston, I don't think would have a shot in the West. But Boston, now that's a team that's been struggling. They are 10-10.
Like, they should not be that low. They should not be this disappointing, I guess you can say.
They're lucky they play in the East. So let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If they played in the West, they'd probably have a few less wins, and it'd be tougher for them to turn it around. So,
what do you think the problem is? Do you think there's a main problem, or do you think there is this is a what's it called, a slump?
So I think the Celtics are going through growing pains because they really didn't play with Kyrie and Hayward together last year. So it's kind of like almost a new team. Because the players that were consistent for them, like in the playoffs in the second half of the year last year, those minutes are being dispersed a little bit more. And honestly, Jeff, I just don't think Hayward's the same guy. I know it. I hate to say it.
He did have a 19-point game the other day, so he played relatively well, all things considered.
He'll have those games. It's just about his consistency, right?
Yeah.
It's like we keep waiting for him to not just have a breakout game, but have like a couple good games back to back.
Yeah. But any other games you want to discuss or anything important?
No, I did want to mention, though, that Tito Ortiz knocking out Chuck Liddell. That was sad to see because Liddell looked like he wasn't a fighter. He looked like he had no history of being a mixed martial arts fighter.
Yeah, I didn't know we were in the year 2006.
Yeah, it was sad to see. Ortiz wins easily. I think Liddell's
you notice they wore the
hang
same
him up.
fight shorts they did in like that era, when they first fought.
Nostalgia, right?
Yeah, well, it's also like UFC. They're not the UFC's Reebok contract, so which is probably better for them. They made probably more money on their advertisements on their trunks than they did on the actual fight.
But yeah, that's what I got for the week in sports. The weekend in sports, I should say.
That's all we got for the weekend in sports. But thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Please tune us in tomorrow. We'll finish up with some Monday Night Football talk and more NBA talk. And you know what? We'll probably go more about the NFL draft as that's closing in, and we have some idea of what teams are going to be in the draft order.
Yep.
But thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.